Hi guys, welcome back to Sci-Fi Odyssey and to another episode of Great Sci-Fi Books Explained, where we dive into the fascinating worlds crafted by some of the best minds in science fiction. Today we're exploring George Orwell's 1984, a dystopian masterwork that paints a disturbing picture of a totalitarian society under relentless surveillance. Decades after its publication, 1984 remains a cornerstone of science fiction and a chilling reflection of modern anxieties. Have you ever wondered how phrases like Big Brother and thought crime became part of our everyday language? Or why Orwell's vision still feels so hauntingly relevant in an age of mass surveillance, data privacy concerns, and misinformation? In this video, we'll explore how Orwell's predictions have come unsettlingly close to reality and why 1984 continues to captivate readers and critics alike. But before we begin, a quick spoiler warning. If you haven't read the book yet, we're going double plus deep into its themes and major plot points. So, let's dissect the bleak but necessary masterpiece that is George Orwell's 1984. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. 1984 is set in a dystopian future where the world is divided into three superstates: Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. The story unfolds in Oceania, a totalitarian regime ruled by the Party, whose figurehead is the omnipresent Big Brother. The Party controls every aspect of life, using propaganda, surveillance, and psychological manipulation to maintain its grip on power. The novel follows Winston Smith, a low-ranking member of the party living in Airstrip 1, the territory that was once London. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth, one of the four ministries that govern Oceania. His job involves the systematic distortion in historical records, rewriting past news and documents to fit the party's ever-changing narrative. This manipulation of truth is a cornerstone of the party's power, as it ensures that no one can challenge their version of reality. Despite outwardly conforming to the party's demands, Winston secretly despises Big Brother and the totalitarian system that oppresses every aspect of life. His acts of rebellion begin small, scribbling "Down with Big Brother" in his secret journal, a treasonous act in a world where even thoughts can be crimes. This defiance is both thrilling and terrifying for Winston, as he knows that being caught would mean torture and death at the hands of the thought police. Winston's desire for rebellion intensifies when he meets Julia, a bold and passionate woman who works in the fiction department. Though she appears to be loyal to the party, she secretly loathes the party just as much as Winston does. Their relationship begins with a note she passes him, simply stating, "I love you." For Winston, this is a radical act, a rebellion not just against the party's suppression of free expression, but against their control over the most private human emotions. Winston and Julia's affair becomes an escape from the constant surveillance and the suffocating reality imposed by the party. They meet in secret, first in the countryside and then in a rented room above a shop, a place where they believe to be safe from the ever-watchful eyes of Big Brother. These stolen moments of intimacy allow them to briefly reclaim their humanity, which the party seeks to erase. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face, forever. However, their rebellion is doomed from the start. Winston begins to trust O'Brien, a mysterious and powerful figure whom he believes to be part of the resistance. O'Brien offers Winston a glimpse of hope, speaking in veiled terms about the Brotherhood, an underground movement dedicated to overthrowing the party. Winston, desperate for some form of resistance, confides in O'Brien, not realizing that he is in fact being set up. Winston and Julia are inevitably betrayed by O'Brien, who reveals himself to be a loyal servant of Big Brother. They are arrested by the thought police and Winston is taken to the Ministry of Love, where the party's brutal methods of control are revealed in full. Here, Winston is subjected to intense psychological torture designed to break his will and force him to submit completely to the party's authority. In room 101, Winston is strapped to a chair, immobilized, while O'Brien reveals a cage containing two large, vicious rats. The cage is designed with a mask-like attachment that can be strapped to Winston's face. The rats, ravenous and aggressive, are moments away from being released into the cage, where they will gnaw through Winston's face. As O'Brien begins to lower the cage towards Winston, the sheer terror of the situation overwhelms him. This is the breaking point. Winston's mind unravels under the threat of his worst fear. In his panic, Winston screams out, begging for the torture to be inflicted on Julia instead, betraying the person he loves most. This act of treachery marks Winston's final surrender. His rebellion is crushed, and with it any hope of resistance against the party. The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power. The novel concludes with Winston's total submission to the party. He's been fully indoctrinated, his hatred for Big Brother replaced with love. The final chilling line of the book is this: he loved Big Brother. It signifies that Winston has lost the battle against the party's absolute control. "1984" was written in 1948, a time marked by the aftermath of World War II, the rise of totalitarian regimes, and the growing tensions of the Cold War. In the years leading up to Orwell's writing, the world had witnessed the horrors of fascist and communist dictatorships, notably in Nazi Germany and Stalin's communist Russia. These regimes utilised propaganda, censorship, and intense surveillance to maintain power, suppress dissent, and control the population. Orwell was particularly concerned with the rise of authoritarianism, both on the political left and right. His experiences fighting in the Spanish Civil War, where he saw firsthand the brutality of fascism and socialism, left him deeply sceptical of all forms of political extremism. Political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind. The shadow of Stalin's Soviet Union looms large over 1984. Orwell was particularly disturbed by the Soviet regime's manipulation of truth and history, where inconvenient facts were simply erased, and reality was constantly rewritten to suit the needs of the party. Technological advances also played a critical role in Orwell's conception of the dystopian world of Oceania. The use of widespread radio and film in the early 20th century allowed governments to spread propaganda on a massive scale, reaching into every household. Orwell extrapolated this into the future with the idea of the telescreen in 1984. A device that constantly broadcasts party propaganda while simultaneously monitoring citizens. The concept of continuous surveillance and the erosion of privacy reflects the anxieties of a world where technology could be harnessed for control rather than liberation. Orwell's vision of the future was shaped by his fears of where the world could be headed if totalitarianism, unchallenged, were allowed to flourish. Winston is the archetype of the tragic hero, a man who seeks to defy the oppressive system but is ultimately crushed by it. His intellectual curiosity and quest for truth sets him apart from others in his society, making him a symbol of individual resistance against overwhelming power. However, Winston's tragic flaw is his naivety. His belief that he can find a way to outsmart the party leads to his downfall. Julia represents the rebel archetype, but with a focus on personal rebellion rather than political revolution. Her pragmatism and desire for freedom through physical pleasure highlight the need for connection in a dehumanizing world. Julia's character also serves as a foil to Winston. While he seeks abstract ideals of truth and rebellion, she is content with the small acts of defiance that allow her to feel alive in a repressive society. O'Brien is the archetype villain, but with a complex twist. He represents the terrifying figure of the state that can infiltrate the minds of individuals and reshape their thoughts. O'Brien is more than just an enforcer of the party's will. He is a symbol of the party's ability to manipulate and destroy anyone who dares to oppose it. His calm, rational demeanour during Winston's torture makes him a chilling embodiment of the state's cold, calculated power. Although not a character in a traditional sense, Big Brother is the symbolic leader of the party and the figurehead of the totalitarian regime. His image is everywhere, in posters, on coins, and the constant broadcasts of the party propaganda. Big Brother represents the omnipresent surveillance and control that defines life in Oceania. He is a godlike figure, invoked to maintain order and suppress rebellion, but his true existence is ambiguous. Big Brother's presence in the story is vital to the novel's exploration of totalitarianism. Big Brother represents the faceless, omnipotent power of the party, a figure that everyone must love and fear, even though he may not even exist at all. As an archetype, Big Brother represents the tyrant, a figure who demands absolute loyalty and obedience from all. Unlike other characters, Big Brother's lack of physical presence makes him an omnipotent force that controls Oceania without ever being questioned. Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 makes 4. If that is granted, all else follows. At its core, 1984 is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked political power, and Orwell's exploration of these concepts elevates it into a timeless piece of science fiction. The world Orwell creates is shaped by several key dystopian concepts, which Orwell uses to illustrate the terrifying possibilities of a totalitarian future. The 4 ministries of Oceania, truth, peace, love, and plenty, exemplify Orwell's use of doublethink, where language is manipulated to obscure reality. Each ministry is paradoxically named after the opposite of its true function. For instance, the Ministry of Truth is responsible for falsifying history, while the Ministry of Love enforces control through torture and fear. These institutions highlight the absurdity and the horror of a society where the government controls every aspect of life and thought. The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. Orwell delves into the psychology of power and how it is maintained through fear, indoctrination, and manipulation. The party's use of torture in the Ministry of Love is not just physical but psychological, designed to break down individuals and make them love Big Brother. The novel explores the terrifying possibility that, through enough psychological pressure, even the most independent minds can be broken. The concept of constant surveillance is central to the dystopian reality of the book. The telescreens, which simultaneously broadcast propaganda and monitor citizens, represent the ultimate tool of the state to suppress individuality and rebellion. The idea of Big Brother, the omnipresent leader who watches everyone, has become synonymous with government surveillance and intrusion into private lives. The concept speaks to the broader theme of technology being used as a tool of oppression rather than liberation. Orwell introduces the concept of thought crime, the idea that even thinking rebellious thoughts is illegal and punishable by the state. To prevent such thoughts, the party develops newspeak, a language designed to eliminate the possibility of rebellious thinking by removing words associated with dissent. By controlling language, the party seeks to control thought itself, reducing the complexity of human experience to simplistic, approved terms. This concept is a chilling exploration of how language and freedom of thought are intrinsically connected. Doublethink means the power of holding 2 contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously, and accepting them both. Orwell was deeply concerned with how language could be used to manipulate and control thought. The concept of newspeak reflects this concern as it demonstrates how limiting language can limit the scope of human thought and freedom. The novel serves as a warning about the dangers of political language that distort reality and obscure the truth. 1984 is a rich story with themes that explore the nature of power, truth, and individuality. The central themes are woven into the narrative, illustrating Orwell's concerns about the potential for political systems to dehumanize individuals and corrupt society. The primary theme of the book is the exploration of totalitarianism, an all-encompassing system of government that seeks to control every aspect of life, from public behavior to private thought. The party's pursuit of power is absolute, with O'Brien revealing that the party's goal is not to create a better society, but to maintain power for its own sake. The novel illustrates the lengths to which totalitarian regimes will go to consolidate control, from rewriting history to breaking down individual will. Another central theme is the nature of reality and truth. In 1984, the party controls reality by controlling information. Through the Ministry of Truth, the party constantly rewrites history to align with the present narrative, creating a world where truth is fluid and malleable. Winston's struggle is a battle for objective truth in a world where truth no longer exists. Orwell explores the idea that when a state or controlling entity controls information, it can control the very fabric of reality, erasing facts and replacing them with propaganda. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. The conflict between individuality and collectivism is another significant theme of the book. The party seeks to eliminate individuality, forcing all citizens to conform to its ideology and suppressing any form of personal expression or autonomy. Winston's rebellion is an attempt to assert his individuality in a world that demands conformity. His relationship with Julia is a brief reclamation of this personal freedom, but it's ultimately crushed by the overwhelming power of the state. The novel presents a bleak view of the fate of individuality in a totalitarian society. At its heart, 1984 is a meditation on the fragility of freedom in the face of oppressive power. Orwell illustrates how easily a society can slip into totalitarianism when people surrender their freedoms in the name of security or stability, or anything for that matter. The aim of the novel is to be a reminder of the need to vigilantly protect individual rights and liberties from the encroachment of any political regime or force. George Orwell, born Eric Arthur Blair in 1903 in British India, was an English writer, journalist and critic whose works have left an indelible mark on literature and political thought. He adopted the pen name George Orwell in 1933 as a way to distance himself from his privileged background. Orwell's writing often focused on the plight of the working class and the dangers of authoritarianism. Orwell spent his early years in England after his family returned from India, and he attended prestigious schools such as Eton. However, Orwell felt out of place in the elite environment and became deeply uncomfortable with the class divisions in British society. Orwell's political views were shaped by his experiences living among the working poor in England and Paris, which he detailed in his book Down and Out in Paris and London. He became an outspoken critic of totalitarianism, imperialism, and the abuse of power, themes that would resonate throughout his work, especially in his later novels Animal Farm and 1984. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. Orwell wrote 1984 in the years following World War II while recovering from tuberculosis on the remote Scottish island of Jura. The war had left him physically weakened and emotionally drained, and his health deteriorated as he worked on the manuscript. Despite his worsening condition, Orwell was driven by a sense of urgency to complete the book, believing that the rise of totalitarianism in the world posed an existential threat to freedom and democracy. His personal life was also marked by tragedy during this period. Orwell's wife, Eileen, died in 1945, leaving him to raise their adopted son Richard alone. The isolation of life on Jura, combined with the harsh conditions and his failing health, lent a sombre and desperate tone to 1984, which Orwell completed in 1948. He died shortly after its publication in 1950, never fully realising the impact his novel would have on future generations. Orwell's legacy as a writer and thinker endures through his writings, which continue to serve as powerful warning against the dangers of oppressive governments and the manipulation of reality. The term Orwellian has entered the lexicon as a way to describe the nightmarish vision of a society he depicted, where totalitarian regimes wield language, surveillance and propaganda as tools of control, distorting the truth and eroding individual freedoms. One of the most striking aspects of 1984 is how eerily prophetic many of its concepts have proven to be in today's world. Several elements of the novel resonate with modern society, particularly in surveillance, media control, and the manipulation of truth. One of the most enduringly prophetic elements of 1984 is the omnipresence of surveillance. In the novel, the party watches its citizens constantly through telescreens, microphones, and hidden cameras, making the concept of privacy obsolete. Today, with the abundance of digital surveillance, Orwell's warning feels more relevant than ever. Governments and corporations have unprecedented access to our personal data through the internet, smartphones, and social media. Mass surveillance programs like those revealed by whistleblowers such as Edward Snowden have demonstrated that even democratically elected governments can engage in widespread monitoring of their citizens. The concept of Big Brother watching over everyone has become shorthand for the modern surveillance state. Whether through government monitoring or tracking and profiling done by tech companies, the lines between public and private life have blurred. And Orwell's cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked surveillance has become a reality for many. Orwell's depiction of the Ministry of Truth, where history is constantly rewritten to serve the party's current narrative, is another prophetic element of 1984 that resonates with today's society. The idea that those with power and influence can control information, shape public perception, and manipulate reality is increasingly relevant in an age of gaslighting, misinformation, and fake news. Misinformation across social media platforms and the ability of those with influence to distort facts for political, financial, or ideological gain mirror the manipulation of truth Orwell warned about. The rise of echo chambers, where people are fed only information that aligns with their existing beliefs, and the deliberate spread of false information by state actors and other groups demonstrate the extent to which truth can be distorted. Just as in 1984, where facts are mutable and history rewritten, today's digital landscape has made it easier than ever to manipulate reality, making Orwell's vision disturbingly prophetic. Orwell's concept of newspeak, a language designed to limit the range of thought by eliminating words associated with dissent, has also found echoes in modern political rhetoric. While we may not have a language as extreme as newspeak, the manipulation of language to obscure meaning and control thought is a familiar tactic in politics and those engaging in political discourse. Terms and words are often sanitized or redefined to play down negative connotations or even conflagrate. In many ways, the political language of today mirrors Orwell's concerns about the power of words to shape thought and control narrative. The reduction of complex issues into simplistic binaries and emotionally charged soundbites limits meaningful discussion and reinforces ideological boundaries, much like newspeak was designed to suppress rebellious thoughts. In 1984, Oceania is engaged in a state of perpetual war, with the enemy constantly shifting between Eurasia and East Asia. This never-ending conflict serves to justify the party's control over the population and keep citizens in a state of fear and loyalty. The war is more about maintaining power than achieving any actual victory. Similarly, the concept of perpetual conflict has found echoes in modern geopolitics, where wars are often prolonged and fear is used as a tool to consolidate power. Orwell's depiction of war as a means of maintaining internal control rather than achieving external goals feels disturbingly prescient in this context. Orwell's portrayal of psychological manipulation in the book, from the use of torture to reprogram dissenters to the party's control over every aspect of life, has parallels in the modern world's concerns about social conditioning and mass manipulation. The constant barrage of information, entertainment, and distractions can serve to numb people to critical thinking, much like the party's use of propaganda to keep citizens complacent. In the digital age, algorithms and targeted content have a profound impact on shaping opinions and reinforcing existing beliefs. This subtle form of control can make it difficult for individuals to step outside of their ideological bubbles and to challenge the status quo, echoing Orwell's concerns about the fragility of free thought in a controlled society. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. When 1984 was first published in 1949, it received widespread acclaim from critics for its powerful and unsettling portrayal of a dystopian future. Many praised Orwell's ability to blend political commentary with a gripping narrative, creating a work that was both thought-provoking and emotionally resonant. While some reviewers were disturbed by the novel's bleak outlook, most agreed that Orwell had created a compelling and necessary cautionary tale. The long-term impact of 1984 on readers and the science fiction genre cannot be overstated. anticipated. The book has received numerous accolades and recognitions over the decades, solidifying its place as one of the most important works of the 20th century. While Orwell did not live to see the full impact of his novel, it has been consistently recognised in literary circles as a masterpiece. Orwell's vision of a dystopian future has left an indelible mark on how we think about the power of governments, the role of technology, and the nature of truth. The term Orwellian has become synonymous with any oppressive, authoritarian regime that uses surveillance and propaganda to control its citizens. This speaks to the novel's lasting influence on both popular culture and political discourse. In the realm of science fiction, 1984 has had a profound influence on the dystopian subgenre. Orwell's work set a new standard for dystopian fiction, inspiring countless other writers to explore the dark possibilities of future societies. The novel's themes of technology as a tool of oppression, the manipulation of reality, and the suppression of individuality are now common tropes in the dystopian literature, from Fahrenheit 451 to The Handmaid's Tale to The Hunger Games. Orwell's 1984 remains a towering achievement in literature, with its influence extending far beyond the realm of fiction. As a work of sci-fi, it pushes the boundaries of the genre, using the speculative possibilities of the future to explore the darkest aspects of human nature and society. Orwell's insights into the nature of power, truth, and freedom have only grown more relevant over time, ensuring that 1984 will continue to be read, studied, and discussed for generations to come. Thanks so much for watching. If you're craving an extraordinary journey through realms unexplored, consider delving into universes directly out of my brain by checking out my sci-fi novels Black Milk and Delphine Descends. You can find more details in the description. Thanks for your support.